YouTube? This is Ultimate Shield 340 back at it again with another Division 2 video. I wanted to make this video to highlight a status effect, and it is the blind status effect. I believe that the blind status effect is a underutilized and underappreciated status effect in the game. It is incredibly powerful for your teammates if the enemies, they can't see you and they cannot shoot you. Because of how this build is set up, it allows you to set up the enemies for your teammates to take them down, but don't be fooled. You actually have a lot of power in and of itself by yourself whenever you are using this build because of the status effects, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Before I continue, I just want to go ahead and say this build is what I saw from a fellow YouTuber. His name is Tuxedo Bandito. I'll link the original build in the description for you to see. So without further ado, here we go. So I have the demolitionist specialization to go ahead and increase the tick damage of the Vile Mask. I have skill haste mods for the Vile Mask here. Backpack is Hannah U, skill haste across the board, skill haste status effects, skill haste mod, opportunistic. Anybody I shoot with the shotgun will have, I get 10% amplified damage to that target, and anybody else who's also attacking that target while it has that badger looking symbol above their head will, take, my teammates will increase their damage by 10% to that target. I have the Grupo Sombra chest plate. The problem that I was running into when trying to find this build is that in the original build, he did have the golden gear as a chest piece with status effects and skill haste, and he had a skill haste mod. It's actually really hard for me to find that piece, so I just sort of had to make do with this piece. As you can see here, I have tag team as a chest piece. If you don't have the Golden Gear chest piece, is what is the original recommendation was, I think that you could probably swap out for China Light here to further increase the damage of the Vile Mask ticks that you have on the enemies. So that's just a recommendation. I just haven't found that piece yet, so that's just what it is for me right now. I have improvised gear for the hands, knee pads, and holster. As you will notice, there are 3 improvised gear pieces on here. I did release a video earlier before talking about why the improvised gear was actually, in some cases, very powerful and even more powerful than the brand sets, which, again, if you want to take a look at that, feel free to look at my channel, which I'll also put a link down in the description for you. And then I have the Blinder Firefly with the cooldown of 7.8 seconds. And the blind duration is 13.4 seconds because I have so much status effects and skill haste on this build. As you'll notice that the duration of the blind actually lasts longer than the cooldown, so you'll be able to proc the blind on the enemy before they get out of the blind status effect, so you can permanently put them under the blind, and it'll help set up for your team. And again, if they can't see you, they can't shoot you. Otherwise, I have the Burn Sticky Bomb here, 5.1 second cooldown, and the duration is 12 seconds. I have Skill Haste mods and Burn Duration. I can't remember if I showed you the mods here, but I also chose Skill Haste, the Blind Effect Duration, and the max targets for this one as well. So the idea here is that whenever you are out there on the battlefield, you're able to sort of knock down a whole bunch of people and keep them under the blind status effect. And 2 things I want to mention before I forget. In the build, I chose the, the sidearm as this right here. I was actually looking for a different rifle, but this one happened to drop, and I chose the eyeless talent to pick for this. If everybody's blinded, it makes sense to go ahead and use the eyeless talent. It's something that, people don't usually use a lot because there's not a whole bunch of builds out there who use the blind status effect, which is no big deal. But, this is what I also talked about in the previous video, where you want to, maybe think about your secondary weapon and maybe use it to synergize well with the build. So this is going to be very good. I also chose damage to armor in this particular weapon. Now, you might be wondering why I did that. The reason being is because you actually get more damage. If you're making a status effect build, you actually get more damage out of the status effect itself because it synergizes with damage to armor. So in other words, if you say like have a burn build, or if you are, have a blind build and you are going to, hit an enemy with the status effect, you're going to get more damage because of the damage to armor stat rather than the damage to target out of cover. If you don't believe me, make sure that you test it out in the range for you to see. I don't have two weapons side by side to show you, otherwise I would, but you can either take my word for it or you can go ahead out into the testing range and see for yourself. But highly recommend that you use this. I am probably going to use this sidearm for chungas and things. The reason being is because I do get the health damage on this weapon, which will increase the damage. The eyeless talent and the health damage is going to help me melt down those chungas very well. In the event that you're fighting like Black Tusk, you can also change out this burn sticky bomb to the EMP pulse, which I think Tux did say in his video, which I agree with his recommendation. I think it's very well. So make sure to swap out whenever you can and whenever you need to. So it's a small showcase of what the build is and what the build can do. This is the idea behind it. So you're going to go ahead and mark a bunch of targets, shoot out your Firefly, shoot an enemy, burn them, and then proc tag team to reduce the cooldown so that you're able to get your cooldowns quite quickly. I actually forgot to turn off the skill haste, which I'll do here so you can actually see how it would actually work out in the real world. Even though this is test dummies, don't worry, I'll go ahead and add some gameplay for you to go ahead and take a look at as well. So shoot out the Firefly, shoot an enemy, fire sticky, shoot them, and then your status effects are ticking. And people may not know this, but as long as the enemy has a status effect on them, tag team will also proc as well. So if for whatever reason you can't get an enemy in the back and they're burning, you can actually proc tag team multiple times. So for instance, maybe I can show you here real quick. So I'll go and get this one guy, I guess both guys. So burn them with the status effect. The tag team is procking in the back, but you see like how this target over here is burning. It'll proc again like the tag team status effect. I hope that makes sense. It's a little hard to see with all this stuff kind of going on here, but you sort of get the idea. So this is the build. This is what I have. You can also change the specialization from the Demolitionist to the Survivalist. I think that's also a very good option. I wanted to use the Demolitionist only because I prefer that specialization weapon over the crossbow, but it's up to you. You can do whatever it is that you want to do. And yeah, so that's the build. That's how it is in practice, and I'll show you some gameplay for you to see. And yeah, other than that, I appreciate everybody who's watching these videos, commenting, and all of that. So yeah, I really appreciate that. And yeah, here's some more gameplay. Alright, so this is Legendary. This is the district unit area. So if you're like me, I actually forgot to switch out the fire sticky for the EMP blast. So that's what I'm doing here. My group mates have already started the mission. So, something to keep in mind. But don't do what I did. Make sure that you're prepared whenever you can. But it's it's easy to swap out the skill. So first thing you want to do is you want it to kind of mark the tank enemies that you see here out there. So that's what I did with the shotgun. Proc opportunistic. I just went ahead and proc tag team there, and I'm just looking to try and blind the human enemies, but then also just focus on using the EMP sticky bomb on the electronic set. I sort of want to CC the entire battle. So Tux actually mentioned that you can use this build in as a legendary, so I wanted to challenge myself and see that, can I do that with this build? And you'll see the results of that. So the chopper, apparently I can't talk today. So the helicopter comes down, drops all these ads. So as you can see, I am marking the targets and shooting them with the shotgun. and making sure that they are under the blind status effect as much and as much as I can. I notice here I'm sort of far back, so I decide I want to kind of push up a little bit. One of the downsides of this build that I forgot to mention in the build display is that it doesn't have any built-in survivability. So suggested that you go ahead and fight behind cover, and I 100% agree with that. You're very dependent on having to use your uh, armor kits to, you know, make sure that you don't go down. So that's great. As you can see, blindness Chunga. Unfortunately, I have terrible aim. Please don't judge me. You'll see that maybe not too often, but you know I'm a human player, no aimbot, so I am gonna miss some from time to time. So see this Chunga is coming up. Make sure I want to blind him, mark him with the opportunistic, and start to burn him down with the fire sticky. Or actually, I still have the EMP sticky at the moment, but you can still proc tag team and sort of mute his skills if you have them. It's still useful for these Chungas, even if you have the EMP, because once you mute them, they can't use that hive skill that puts you on bleed whenever they are under the. It's essentially the disrupt status effect, so they can't hit you with the bleed or anything when they're under that. So it's still good to use, although the burn sticky bomb is the better option. Now that we've cleared that, we actually cleared this pretty easy. And I go back to my burn sticky for us to move into the next area, because I know, am well aware that the next area is not, it doesn't really have any electronics or anything out there for me to go ahead and focus fire. So I'll see you in the next area. So we get to the next area. I want to position myself in a way where I can see all the enemies and throw out the firefly. One thing that you'll also see during this clip is that there is a slight problem using the skill. If you are ducked down, you'll see that sometimes you'll throw out the skill and it'll immediately hit the wall. Like your character will actually throw the skill into the wall and it still goes on cooldown and you don't get any effect of it. So what I would recommend is that you back up, like actually get out of cover and stand up for a split second, and you actually throw it after marking the targets with the um, blinder, so that you can guarantee that it doesn't hit the wall or the box or whatever it is, and you can actually get the benefit of the skill. So just as a heads up, something to sort of think about and consider. So we've already knocked down the first wave. We have really good group mates right here. Trying to make sure that in case anybody comes around the corner, I can go ahead and blind them. But again, I'm being a little bit cautious. I don't want to run out there because I don't have any like inherent healing or anything. So, and I know the next wave is coming. So this is like one of the biggest powers of the build itself. So as you can see, there's a bunch of Chungas down there. I have blinded a few of them. Opportunistic. The blinder firefly is in full effect. Tag teaming, shooting people, marking people, status effects. My teammates, as you can notice, their health, they're not really getting shot. And although I did get hit a little bit, I'm still able to stay in the fight and continue to just proc this over and over. Another thing I really enjoy about this build is just the sheer power. Like, look at this. There's what can the enemy team do to us when you have a build like this that sort of CCs them and makes it so that they can't really retaliate. Not to mention they're in a choke point too, so it's like it's open season for both my skills, my teammate skills. Opportunistic is increasing the damage that they take both from my status effects, the blinds, the fire, and it's just shooting fish in a barrel. So we're just kind of doing this. I'm able to get a long range sticky. So I just want you guys to remember that I did hit that long range sticky. So if you ever see me miss and you were judging my skill before, just know that I can't hit those long shots like that too. So shout out to good old Kobe. May he rest in peace. So we are going to go ahead and move on to the next area. So I'll just see you over there as well. So yeah. Okay, so we get into the next area. I try and use the blinder firefly, but it's going to hit the box like you see there. So nobody's blinded. I also catch a bullet. So that's one of the things that you need to watch out for if you're going to use this. It's just rather unfortunate, and it's one of those things that I really hate about, the division, where something like that will sort of keep you from, being successful. So I'm going to use the shotgun to mark a lot of the enemies. One of the good things about this build is that you can use the shotgun as a marking tool. As you can see, the status effects are above that guy's head. Not only can your teammates see that that enemy is now under this status effect, but also they are taking increased damage, and that opportunistic symbol is above their head. So then, I would hope that it would encourage your teammates to attack that target or focus it down in the event that it's like, say, a high priority target like a chunga or a dog. So another thing that I want to mention while we're here is that the blind status effect, due to the vile mask, you are also proccing. Not only are you protecting your teammates by blinding the enemy, but you're also still doing damage to the enemy, because every time you blind somebody, the toxic delivery talent from the vile mask will go ahead and kick in. So don't feel like you have to hit every single person with the fire sticky. It's more important that you blind people to not only support your teammate, but you also are getting the residual damage as well. Keep in mind that once you are blinding somebody, the second weapon slot that I recommended is for the blind. It has the eyeless talent, so in the event that you do blind somebody, like an actual human target, you can go ahead and sort of focus that target down and get an increased amount of damage in addition to the blind. So this next room, I know that we are going to face some dogs, so I switch out to the EMP and make sure that my skills are correct while I do that. And we go up the steps and we start this encounter. One of our teammates goes down, and I can't get to that dog, so I sort of keep an eye on him for now, and then just make sure that I shoot the other one with the EMP blast. And then this dog has come back in, and I've marked both targets now with the opportunistic, and now they're both incapacitated using the EMP blast. As you can see, that dog is disrupted still and will be there for a little bit, so I'm kind of keeping an eye out on that while I res my teammate. So I'm able to res the teammate, go ahead and proc opportunistic again, use the EMP sticky. Unfortunately, I also catch myself in the blast, but it's not that big of a deal because the EMP blast is not as detrimental as, say if it was the fire sticky, which probably would have killed me. So, again, just be mindful of that if you are using either of those two things, although the EMP blast is not as detrimental. So now that the two dogs are down, I'm going to switch back to the fire sticky, and we're going to go to the very next room. So, making sure I'm all fully loaded, and I'm ready for the next engage. So we get into this room, immediately get into cover, start to mark those targets with the blinder, and I get out of cover, as you'll see here, and then I throw the blinder. So that's something to get around the issue where it could hit the box and cancel out your skill. So you can do that. All those status effects are rolling, and now the enemies are just incapacitated again. Teammates are doing their thing, I'm doing my thing. I'm trying to mark people using the Scorpio shotgun for opportunistic. This dog is kind of coming up again, which is again rather unfortunate, and he gets behind us, and now we're all in a very bad position. So this dog is behind us. We get the overcharge because one of our teammates had procced that out. One of the teammates goes down, and again, we're in a really bad position. So I'm trying to make sure I get myself behind cover so I'm not getting shot in the back down the hallway, as you can see there, but also sort of keeping my eye on where the dog is so that I also don't get shot from there as well. So I shoot it with the shotgun. Another teammate goes down, and at this point in time, I'm rather nervous. So my first thought is, well, let me throw out the blinder so that at least one less person is shooting at us, and maybe that might help us. And I'm still continuing to mark the targets with opportunistic, so I'm getting the damage, and then if anybody else gets up, we can do the damage, and we are able to try and get this guy down. So switch to the secondary, get that increased damage to the Warhound, and another teammate goes down again. So again, I should have, at this point, I've just caught 2 explosions back to back. I should have just actually got to a different position, but luckily for us, the controller died, so no more explosions, and we're able to kill that dog there and get out of this situation. So next wave comes. They're coming down the hall. This is perfect opportunity for the blinder sticky guys and continuing to rock and roll. This is what I like about the build, just the amount of CC that you put out, the status effects, rocking and rolling, and you're able to just, like really do a lot. One other thing that I want you to sort of, kind of pay attention to is like how quickly we're actually going through, these areas, because everybody's incapacitated, so our teammates are just getting free, just getting free shots in, and we're able to, mow down the enemy team very quickly. Enemy team comes in, I mark the targets and start to burn them down. So a lot of people are stuck in this doorway, and they're just going down. Chunga comes down, and now you can really see the power of this build, where this Chunga can't really do much anything. So he's blind, he's on fire, he's getting shot, opportunistic, and he just goes down. So that's really the big power of the build. So I'm hoping that you see why blind status effect is such an underutilized and underrated status effect. And with the build itself, you can really, it really goes a long way to help protect you and your teammates. And maybe you can think about maybe putting blind status effects in your build and maybe seeing how that works out for you. So again, start off marking those targets and letting the blinder firefly do its thing. I'm gonna miss my shots, apparently. It's no big deal. And everybody's just out there stuck, blinded, on fire, and in lots of trouble from us. I actually kind of really like this room for this build as well, because it does have a an enclosed space, so it makes it very easy for the blinder to it helps you mark down the targets, and then also make sure that you are getting the blinder off on a lot of people all at once. So the next wave is going to show up, so sort of ready myself, make sure that the blinder is marking those targets. And again, I'm just staying behind cover. I just kind of pop up in and out while I'm out here on legendary, do my little bit of damage, and then kind of get back in and cover real quick. So almost bite it right there, and I see that the Chung is out there, so that's priority number 1. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark them, burn them, opportunistic, everything's going. I see the other enemy, so I'm gonna use the blinder for both those guys. Now what I should have did was, or actually I just did it there, where I shot the other enemy and also hit him with the opportunistic talent, so that he also takes the increased amount of damage, and we just keep going. So Stung is not going anywhere, and so I switch over to my secondary to get that bonus damage, and he goes down pretty easy, and he doesn't get very far in this room. So many of you who have been watching my content up until this point have noticed that I have created a video about the price of overconfidence. And I just want you to keep that in mind whenever I go into the very next room, because I still have that problem, and it could be very detrimental if you do not learn from your mistakes like me. Don't be bad like me. Learn from your mistakes, and yeah, just don't do what I do. Okay, so you'll see what I mean here shortly. So going and doing what I can to mark the enemies, shooting them, marking them, and we are doing what we do. So I catch a bullet, and my first thought is I should back up. So, don't be overconfident. Back up. I catch a whole bunch of bullets because I'm fumbling around. I'm sort of panicking here, but I get myself together and I get behind cover. So I know that the chungas are coming up. So, again, I want to just take a step back and then get myself into a better position. So this is where the problem comes in. What am I doing out in the open like this? What am I doing? What am I doing? Apparently I'm just going to die, and that's part of my problem. Now, what I should have done is I should have gotten behind cover and waited for the chunks to come up, just like the rest of my teammates that you see behind me. That's what I should have did, but you live and you learn, and you try and do better. So don't be like me. Learn from your mistakes, and don't do what I did, okay? So I decided I wanted to skip down toward the boss's room. This video was already getting kind of long, so I just wanted to kind of shorten it up. And there was nothing else that you haven't already seen already, and I had no real commentary to add, so I wanted to go ahead and skip ahead. So we are here in the final area. My first order of business is to take out those snipers. Those guys will smoke you, and that's what I do here. Somebody actually pulls out the oxidizer, and is able to burn those guys down real fast as well. I'm able to shoot those guys and proc tag team, and we are kind of continuing to do this. One other thing about this build I really enjoy is that it allows you to sort of spawn camp a lot as well, as you'll see. I know that new enemies are going to come out at some point, just as you see up there. I'm not only able to mark the targets and kind of shoot a lot of these guys all at once, but the enemies are sort of running around, and I'm able to throw out the blinder and get a lot of these guys in status effects, and I'm able to sort of burst down a lot with the help of my teammates. The next ads that will come down, you'll see what I mean by that, but this guy's kind of all like around the building, so I'm just gonna let my teammates just do that. Again, I'm not the kind of build that is good about maybe being up close and personal like that, because I'm just gonna get smoked and I go down instantly. So I just kind of let my teammates just go out there and sort of cut that guy down. So next spawn comes out and I'm ready for him. Blinder Fireflies, getting all those guys marked, and blinder goes out. And the large groups of enemies like this is great because, again, Firefly, Fire Sticky as well, really allows you to take down a lot of guys like that. I noticed that this is a great opportunity for me to use my specialization weapon, which is what I do here. And we're able to kind of cut down how much time it takes to knock down all these enemies as well. I also wanted to try this legendary out to test the build itself and see how it would go against one of the, in my opinion, one of the toughest bosses in the game. As you all know, the backpack on the boss is what really keeps him from being damaged. It heals him a lot very quickly, so obviously you're going to have to break down that backpack first before you are able to really damage the boss. So I wanted to test this build out and see, kind of, put it through the ringer and just see, how does this hold up. So that's exactly what we do. I get up top here so I can kind of overlook the battlefield. I can mark these targets, and my focus right now is on the ads. I'm gonna apparently miss my shots. So my focus is on the ads. So the less ads that we have here, the better. Go ahead and proc opportunistic on the boss to allow my teammates to get that bonus damage on him while I'm not focused on him. I'm of course gonna miss my second shot again. No big deal though. And let my Firefly kind of do the work for us. So now that it's us, and I think that's just one more ad, able to sort of just long scope that guy with the sticky, burn him. And my job at this moment is to just not only CC the boss and provide opportunistic, but just provide whatever damage that I can and make sure that I don't get hit by the EMP blast that the boss has. So that's what I do. The good news is that this group is able to go ahead and burn down a lot of ads and stuff very quickly, and so that's the advantage. I decided I want to go ahead and take out this ad right here, make it easier for my team, and then all we have now is to just focus the boss. So that's what we do. So if you're here with me at this point and you're still watching, I just want to go ahead and tell you that I really appreciate you taking the time and your audience to go ahead and watch my video. And I appreciate all the commenters and people who have looked at my content, give me suggestions and all of those things. So I hope that you enjoy the content. I enjoy making this, making these videos and things for you. So I'm hoping that whenever you look at the Division 2, you can start to sort of expand your mind off of what is the meta. Usually a lot of people will use what is just the meta and not really go beyond that. And I want to maybe use this channel to help maybe challenge you in your thinking in why should I do this, why should I do that. And the goal is that you are I want you to have fun, but I also want to make a build or customize your gameplay that is going to fit your play style. You can watch YouTube and people like me or other YouTubers, and they can tell you these things and everything and look at builds, and that's great, and I think that's a good idea. I think it's wonderful for the community, but when it comes to builds, you have to really truly make a build your own, and at least know enough about the play style, and you know change how you play to fit your play style. And ultimately, that's what I think that I really want you to think about. So I'll go ahead and I'll let the rest of the video play out. This is Ultimate Shield 340 signing out, and I'll see you in the Dark Zone. Peace.